Hey everyone, Soren here from RMS Vocal Institute. Today we will revisit tongue and throat. It's about time, I know, but finally it calmed down a little bit with how many different styles we have, so let's do it. Today will be a little bit more about theory and philosophy, more than the technique itself, how to do it and how to approach it. However, next episode will be all about that, I promise. Since the very first video that we did here at RMS Vocal Institute, a lot has happened. We were the first company actually to go in and look specifically at tongue and throat. How does this work? So we did that in France, Grenoble, with Natalie Heinrich, and even more specialists like ENTs, speech language pathologists. You can see a little bit of it from our workshop at PVOC with Natalie Heinrich and myself. Let's look into the characteristics of tongue and throat. The first one is definitely the name. Why do we call it tongue and throat? Well, it's possibly, and I do believe the reason is, we have a U-shaped tongue while we're producing this specific sound. So it creates a very specific oral cavity, or the room inside our mouth changes quite drastically because of this. Number two. The original tongue and throat were only produced with the false chords, ventricular folds, vestibular folds, or what fancy name you have for them. Number three, the sound character were only towards growling, nothing else in the beginning. Number four, tongue and throat is the absolute heaviest sound we can produce for one reason only. This is not based on opinions, like, yeah, you could say that gutturals or pig squeals or whatever you think are heavier to your ears and your opinion, that is great. However, when we look inside the voice box, the thing is that the tongue and throat technique or style has more sympathetic vibrations than any other style. So that means things other than the true vocal folds, other than the false vocal folds, but also the surrounding tissues are vibrating more, and we still have control over the sound. So it's not just a burst of something like, for example, air distortion. It is not like this, where it's less controllable when singing. And all of the characteristics still hold up to this day. However, one of them has changed a little bit. The one about it only being the false vocal folds or false chords. So you guys loved the sound of tongue and throat suddenly. And what then happened? A lot of playful ideas came about. So you suddenly started changing this and that within the sound itself. But of course, with these changes, a lot of new questions have to appear. Number one, do we consider an oral gesture to be a new style? Number two, do we really consider the tongue as being the main contributor to giving a style a new name? We did with pig squeals and somewhat some guttural styles as well. If so, do we also consider the same style to be a new sound and give it a new name just because twang is added? Number three, should we just look at how the true vocal folds react to give it a new name when we talk about styles and names? Number four, is it more towards which part that we are distorting with? So can we still call it tongue and throat if it's not done on the false chords? And five, can we still call it tongue and throat if we turn it into a hybrid? So write in the comments so I can hear and we can discuss about what parameters should we think about for us to give a scream a new name. And as you can tell, these questions brings us into even deeper layers of questioning. So it's not as simple as it might seem. And personally here at RMS, we use the names that you guys use out in the real world. We do not change the name on something just because we want to give it a new name. No, we simply use the terminologies that we hear that you screamers out there are using. My favorite one is about the gesture of the oral cavity, the tongue shape and placement. because that gives us so many options here. As I said, we have already done that with something like pig squeals or some guttural sounds. Yeah, we talk about the tongue quite a bit here. So is the tongue the main contributor to us to call it a new name? Or is it all about the twang that we are kind of producing while doing tunnel throats? That makes sense because now there's a lot of extra high frequencies within the sound that we're producing. And that's why it really cuts through the mix pretty well as well. So we have quite low lows and we have quite bright brights as well. So that makes it cut through almost any sound, if it's produced pretty well at least. So that makes sense, and also is a good reason why someone like Will from Lorna Shore is that powerful in his voice, because it's such a wide frequency range with this specific style. Or is it all about overtones? However, I do not think we're there yet when it comes to us saying this is why we give it a new name. I think there are too many different voice teachers out there. There are too many different companies wanting to give it their own name, their own spin. So if we do not have a consensus about what makes and what gives it a new name, then it's pretty hard for us to move forward with this. And I do not fully like the idea of fully Freuding everything out, Sigmund Freud. I do not like the idea of boxing everything, because again, do we really need that? Everyone's voice is a little bit different, and that is how we treat it here at RMS Vocal Institute. We don't just, you're in this box, this is how. No, what I do here is that we first create the tonal throat, and then we can see what additives you need to get it towards the way that you want it to sound. So those small changes, we're all unique. Everyone's voice is a little bit unique compared to the next. So that's why that we consider every voice as a single. But yes, there are of course main characteristics from, for example, tonal throat and other styles as well. And if you want help to find tonal throat in your voice and how to produce it safely, then RMS Vocal Institute is the place to be. See you at your private and professional voice lesson.